You've been there. You're trying to cancel a subscription. You go to the website, you click Account, then Settings, then Billing, then Manage Plan, then nothing. No cancel button. Just a phone number or a chatbot or a form you have to fill out and wait 3 business days for a response. You signed up in 30 seconds. It took 1 click. Canceling takes 40 minutes of focused effort. If you can find the button at all, you didn't fail to navigate the website. The website was designed to make you fail. Every extra click between you and the exit was placed there deliberately. Every confusing menu, every grayed out button, every "Are you sure?" pop-up, none of it is an accident. It's all architecture. Choice architecture. Built to guide your behavior not toward what you want, but toward what the company wants. This is the world of dark patterns. User interfaces crafted not to help you, but to manipulate you. Not to clarify your options, but to obscure them. Not to empower your decisions, but to make them for you. You think you're in control. You think you're making choices, but the choices you're making, and the ones you're not, were designed before you ever saw the screen. Let me show you how the buttons lie. In 2010, a UX designer named Harry Brignall coined a term for something he kept seeing across the web. Interfaces designed to trick users into doing things they didn't intend to do. He called them dark patterns. The name was deliberate. In design, a pattern is a reusable solution to a common problem. A dark pattern is the same thing, but the problem it solves isn't yours, it's the company's. The user's confusion is the feature. The user's mistake is the revenue model. Brignall started cataloging them. He built a website, darkpatterns.org, and invited people to submit examples. The submissions poured in, not dozens, not hundreds, thousands, from every industry, from every platform, from companies you use every day. Here's what the catalog revealed. These aren't edge cases. They're not the work of a few bad actors. Dark patterns are standard practice across the entire digital economy, deployed by the most valuable companies on Earth, tested and optimized with the same rigor as any other feature. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Dark patterns work. They've been A/B tested, they've been measured, they've been optimized. Companies know exactly how much revenue they generate from making the cancel button hard to find. They know exactly how many extra subscriptions they capture by hiding the no thanks option. The data is there. The companies have it, and they use it, not to fix the dark patterns, but to refine them. Let me walk you through the catalog. Once you learn to see these, you'll never unsee them. First, the Roach Motel, named after those sticky traps where bugs check in but they don't check out. The Roach Motel makes it incredibly easy to get into a situation and incredibly difficult to get out. Sign up for Amazon Prime? 1 click. Cancel Amazon Prime? A multi-page labyrinth of confirmation screens, hidden menus, but have you considered keeping your membership? Guilt trips. The asymmetry is the design. Second, confirm shaming. This is when the option to decline something is worded to make you feel stupid or guilty for saying no. You've seen it. A pop-up offering a newsletter or a discount code, and the no thanks button doesn't say no thanks. It says, no, I hate saving money. Or no, I don't want to improve my life. Or no, I prefer paying full price. The button you click becomes a confession of your own inadequacy. Third, hidden costs. You go through an entire checkout process, 5 screens, shipping details, payment method, and only at the very last step does a service fee appear, or a handling charge, or a platform fee. The price you saw when you started isn't the price you pay at the end. And by the time the real price appears, you've already invested so much effort in the checkout that you're more likely to just accept it. This is called the sunk cost trap, and they know it works. Fourth, bait and switch. You click on one thing, but the interface does another. The X button that's supposed to close a pop-up instead opens the App Store. The continue button that looks like it'll take you to the next step instead signs you up for a free trial that converts to a paid subscription in 7 days. The interface lies about what the button does. Fifth, trick questions. A checkbox or a toggle where the wording is deliberately confusing. Check this box if you do not want to not receive marketing emails. Read that again. You're not supposed to understand it. You're supposed to give up and leave the default, which conveniently is the option that benefits the company. This brings us to the single most powerful dark pattern of all. It's not a button, it's not a pop-up, it's the absence of choice, the default. In 2003, researchers examined organ donation rates across European countries. The results were staggering. Some countries had donation rates above 90%. Others had rates below 15%. Same continent, same procedure, same basic level of public support for organ donation. The difference? The default option on the form. In countries with high donation rates, citizens were automatically enrolled as donors. They had to opt out if they didn't want to participate. In countries with low donation rates, citizens had to opt in. The default didn't reflect what people believed. It reflected what required less effort. This is the default effect, and it governs more of your digital life than you realize. Every privacy setting you never changed, every notification you never turned off, every data sharing permission you accepted without reading. The default is set to benefit the company, and you have to actively, deliberately, effortfully change it to benefit yourself. Most people don't. Companies know this, they've studied it, they count on it. The default isn't neutral. The default is a decision made by the company, imposed on you, and protected by the friction required to change it. When Apple introduced app tracking transparency, requiring apps to ask permission before tracking you across other apps, the opt-in rate collapsed to around 25%. Users wanted privacy, but when asking was optional, companies didn't ask. When asking became mandatory, users said no. The default changed. The behavior followed. The term choice architecture comes from behavioral economics, specifically from Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein's book, Nudge. Their insight was that there's no such thing as neutral design. Every way you present a choice influences what people choose. The order of the options, the size of the buttons, the color, the default, all of it shapes behavior. Thaler and Sunstein argued that choice architecture should be used ethically to nudge people toward decisions that benefit them. Save more for retirement, eat healthier, sign up for organ donation. They call this libertarian paternalism. The tech industry read the same research, but it applied the principles in the opposite direction. Instead of nudging you toward what's good for you, they nudge you toward what's good for them. Dark patterns exploit specific vulnerabilities in human psychology. First, decision fatigue. Your brain has a limited capacity for making decisions each day. Every choice you make depletes that capacity slightly. By the time you're trying to cancel a subscription or untick a checkbox or read through a privacy policy, you've already made hundreds of decisions. Your cognitive resources are drained. You're more likely to accept the default. You're more likely to give up. The friction is timed to hit you when you're weakest. Second, loss aversion. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky demonstrated that people feel the pain of losing something about twice as intensely as the pleasure of gaining the same thing. Dark patterns weaponize this. You'll lose your progress. You'll lose your discount. You'll lose access. The threat of loss is more motivating than the promise of gain. And every "are you sure?" pop-up, every fear-inducing warning when you try to leave, is engineered to trigger exactly this response. Third, the endowment effect. Once you've used something, even briefly, you value it more than you did before you had it. A free trial that automatically converts to paid isn't just about hoping you forget. It's about giving you just enough time to feel like the service is yours, so that canceling feels like losing something, not just declining to buy something. Each of these psychological mechanisms is real. Each has been studied extensively, and each has been systematically embedded into the interfaces you use every day. Not everyone in tech is comfortable with this. A growing movement of designers, researchers, and engineers is pushing back, arguing that the tools of behavioral design can and should be used ethically. The Center for Humane Technology, founded by former Google design ethicist Tristan Harris, has been one of the loudest voices in this space. Their argument is simple. Technology should serve human interests, not exploit human vulnerabilities. The same design talent that optimizes engagement and retention could be redirected toward genuine human flourishing. There are frameworks emerging. The Ethical Design Manifesto proposes that technology should respect human rights, human effort, and human experience. It argues that design should be transparent about its intentions, respectful of user attention, and honest about its business model. Some companies are adopting these principles. DuckDuckGo built a search engine that doesn't track you and made that the default, not an opt-in buried in settings. Signal built a messaging app with privacy as the default, not an afterthought. The privacy by design movement argues that products should be built to protect users from the start, not to extract from them and offer protection as a premium feature. But here's what the ethical design movement has discovered. Ethical design is less profitable in the short term. When you make the cancel button easy to find, people cancel more. When you make the privacy settings clear, people choose more privacy, which means less data to sell. The market doesn't reward ethical design. The market rewards extraction. And until that changes, dark patterns will remain the industry standard. So what do you do when the interfaces you use every day are designed to manipulate you? First, learn to see them. The moment you know what a roach motel looks like, you start spotting them everywhere. The confusing cancel flow, the hidden opt-out, the guilt-tripping decline button. Naming the pattern strips it of its power. You can't fight what you can't see. Now you can see it. Second, slow down at the moments of friction. Dark patterns depend on speed. They depend on you clicking through without reading, accepting without thinking, giving up when it gets hard. The friction is designed to exhaust you. The countermove is to recognize the friction as a signal. When canceling is hard, that's not a sign that you should give up. That's a sign that the company has invested in making you give up, which means canceling is exactly what you should do. Third, use tools that respect you. Choose browsers that block trackers by default. Choose search engines that don't collect your data. Choose apps that make their money from you directly. Through purchases or subscriptions you consciously choose, rather than through hidden extraction. The ethical alternatives exist. They're not always as polished, but they make the choice architecture visible and they let you, not the company, decide what happens. Fourth, demand better. Regulation is starting to catch up. The European Union's Digital Services Act now bans certain dark patterns. The FTC in the United States has started bringing enforcement actions. When you see a dark pattern, report it. Name it publicly. The companies that use them count on your silence and your exhaustion. Your voice is the one thing their optimization models can't account for. Every button you've ever clicked was placed there by someone who wanted you to click it. Every menu you've navigated was designed by someone who wanted you to go in a particular direction. Every default that was set for you was set by someone who made a prediction about what you would do and built the system to make that prediction come true. This is not conspiracy. This is design. Good design serves the user. Dark design serves the designer. And the digital world you navigate every day is filled with dark design. Not because designers are evil, but because the incentives reward manipulation over service. You can't opt out of choice architecture. You can't live in a world without defaults, without menus, without buttons that someone else designed. But you can learn to see the architecture. You can learn to recognize the patterns. You can learn to pause at the moments of friction and ask yourself, whose interest does this serve? Because the interface is never neutral. The default is never innocent. The button is never just a button. Behind every pixel, every placement, every carefully worded option, there is a choice about whose choice matters more. And now you know how to tell whose it is.